They came without warning. They came without reason. Now, a couple trapped in isolation must survive the terror of being hunted by three strangers who want nothing but to make them afraid. The Strangers is a 2008 American psychological horror film directed by Brian Bertino. The film begins with a young couple, James, played by Scott Speedman, and Kristen, played by Liv Tyler, who arrive at a secluded vacation home in the woods. The couple is coming off a tense evening after James proposes to Kristen, and she declines, setting the stage for an emotionally charged night. As they settle in, the night takes a terrifying turn when a mysterious woman knocks on their door, asking for someone who isn't there. This encounter leads to the appearance of three masked strangers, known only as the Man in the Mask, Dollface, and Pinup Girl, who begin to torment the couple in various terrifying ways. The strangers begin to psychologically and physically terrorize the couple, breaking into their home and forcing them to confront the brutal reality of their situation. The movie's structure is simple but effective, relying on slow-building tension and a sense of helplessness that escalates as the situation becomes more dire. There's no clear motivation for the strangers' actions, adding to the horror. There is no rhyme or reason for their cruelty. The film is not concerned with giving answers or background information about the assailants. Instead, it focuses on the psychological terror of being trapped in a situation where the attackers' intentions are unknown and their violence is unrelenting. James is the male protagonist, and much of the film's emotional weight is placed on his relationship with Kristen. James is neither the stereotypical action hero nor a completely helpless victim. He's a man who finds himself in an unspeakable nightmare and must fight to survive, something he genuinely tries to do. His character doesn't have much depth in terms of backstory, but his actions in the face of terror feel believable, adding to the film's grounded tone. Kristen is the female protagonist, and Liv Tyler brings a sense of vulnerability, fear, and eventual determination to her character. This character actually had me rooting for the bad guys. Her incessant whining, her crappy dialogue, just made me wish her character could be eliminated from the movie. This is some dialogue when faced with danger.
James, we need a gun.
I'm looking.
Does your dad have a gun?
Kristen, I'm looking!
There is a scene where the strangers enter the house, and she runs and hides under the bed, like a little child. I find it ridiculous thinking that if multiple assailants enter your home, you will just hide under the bed, where you will be a sitting target. She may be called a lot of things, but resilient is not one of them. At some point, even her voice started to irritate me. And it's not a shot taken at Liv, instead just the utter nonsensical dialogue of hers. The three assailants, Dollface, the Man in the Mask, and Pinup Girl, are characterized by their chilling anonymity and the lack of any substantial motivation for their actions. This lack of backstory is one of the most unnerving aspects of the film. They are unidentifiable figures who derive their power from the sheer randomness of their violence. They don't have elaborate plans, motivations, or psychological depth. They're just there to torment their victims, which makes them all the more terrifying. It's like feeding off of their emotional turmoil. They seem to like the control they have over their victims. The female assailants mostly appear in the background, silently watching or appearing suddenly at the windows and doors. Dollface is the first of the trio to actually go to the protagonist and knocks on their door at 4 a.m, asking if Tamara is home. The most imposing of the three, the Man in the Mask wears a simple burlap sack over his head. He is the leader of the trio, guiding the others and making the most direct attacks on the couple. His presence throughout the film is one of ever-growing terror, especially in scenes where his intentions remain unclear. These characters are a great representation of how horror works when you strip away motivations, backstories, and even clear objectives. They are just violent, faceless figures, and that sense of randomness adds an overwhelming sense of fear. One of the central themes of The Strangers is the randomness of violence. Unlike other horror films where antagonists have clear reasons for their actions, the assailants in this film seem to attack the couple simply because they are there. The strangers' lack of motivation makes them seem more like forces of nature, unbound by logic or reason. This reflects a deeper existential fear. Sometimes bad things happen, not because of anything you did, but just because you happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. The isolated vacation home in the woods creates a feeling of being cut off from the outside world, which heightens the sense of danger. We have seen multiple films with the isolated home trope, but I believe The Strangers does it well. James and Kristen have no way to call for help, as their phones have either been destroyed by the strangers or taken by them. The isolation plays into the couple's emotional vulnerability and amplifies the horror, making the attacks feel even more personal and terrifying. There is a distinct lack of explanation for the strangers' actions. We never learn who they are or why they target this particular couple. This contributes significantly to the horror of the film. The unknown is often scarier than what's explained. The strangers' unpredictable behavior, the sense of them watching and waiting, and their complete indifference to their victims' pain make them incredibly terrifying. The slow-building dread is amplified by long, lingering shots that allow the audience to feel the terror mounting along with the victims. Not all audience members will like this about the film, but I believe it builds on the film as the strangers appear to enjoy the so-called hunt and playing with their victims. The strangers' appearances are often brief but calculated, enhancing their eeriness by keeping them largely in the shadows or out of focus. The lack of bright lighting only adds to the oppressive mood. From the sound of knocking at the door to the creaks of the house and the terrifying silence punctuated by sudden screams, every sound is meant to heighten the viewer's unease. There is a minimalist quality to the score, which works in the film's favor by allowing the ambient sounds to carry much of the emotional weight. I loved the songs played in the film. As Kristen is alone during the initial attack, the lyrics of one of the songs asks, "Should we go outside?" Unbeknownst to her, there is danger outside trying to get in. The pacing is another standout feature. The Strangers doesn't rush into the violence. It lets the audience linger in the couple's isolation, slowly building tension until it becomes unbearable. What I especially liked about the film is that when the protagonists are introduced, we can already feel the tension between the couple, and as soon as it appears that the tension dissipates, Dollface comes knocking on the door. Every time the strangers appear or make their presence known, the intensity ramps up, keeping the audience on edge. The suspense is palpable, and this is the real strength of The Strangers, its ability to make something as simple as knocking on a door feel deeply unsettling. Yes, there are a lot of tropes being used, but I believe it to be used optimally. There are jump scares, but not as many as you would find in horror movies released today. The film never feels the need to explain why the attackers are doing what they're doing, and that works in its favor. The mystery of the strangers' actions, combined with the unpredictability of their behavior, is part of what makes them so terrifying. The ending of The Strangers is a subject of debate. Some viewers appreciated its bleakness, while others were left frustrated by the lack of resolution. I personally enjoyed it as the ending is fitting for the character of Kristen, who appears to be written to be stupid. This is a character I absolutely hated throughout the film. While the film does a great job of building tension, there are times in the middle where the pacing drags a little. Some moments feel unnecessarily drawn out, with the couple hiding or running in circles, which does break the tension rather than building it. The Strangers thrives on atmosphere, minimalism, and the raw fear of ordinary people caught in extraordinary circumstances. The lack of explanations and backstory for the antagonists only adds to their horror, making them feel more like an unstoppable force than characters with motives. The film's emphasis on tension building, realistic fear, and its haunting isolation make it one of the more effective home invasion films of the modern era. While its ending and occasional pacing issues might leave some viewers frustrated, the film's overall impact is undeniable. The Strangers leaves a lingering sense of dread long after the credits roll, and its ability to evoke such an intense emotional response is a testament to its effectiveness as a horror film. If you're looking for a chilling, minimalist thriller that taps into our most primal fears, The Strangers is worth a watch.